Good evening to all of you, friends. I think you are not. I'm not audible to you, but perhaps I'm not visible to you, perhaps, but I'm audible to you. In this, lockdown situation, we thought that we should provide more information about ancient cultures and traditions to the people, and we have recently launched this rakigadi.com program, and this particular today's live program is arranged by Balram Kumar on behalf of the rakigadi.com. Friends, since September, we have been hearing about the breakthrough research on ancient DNA and also the new information that is coming out from this particular research, the implications of this research on Indian history, all this new happening in the country. And then in October, we published one more paper, and for the first time, we have shown how the Harappan people looked like. So the facial reconstruction of the Harappan people was published in October. So these two research papers were very important, and they have provided really new methodologies and new direction to the Indian archaeology. I thought that I should give you some idea about the nature of data that we use for the scientific research. And ancient burials is one of the most important source for archaeologists, for historians. Not only because we get some idea about the burial customs, various burial customs followed by the people, but also we get to know more stories behind the people. So on this particular occasion, I thought I should speak to you about the ancient burial customs and the stories they tell to us. Now, for archaeologists, there are two important sources. When we excavate any site, suppose we are excavating the habitation site, then we look for the garbage area, because in the garbage area we get maximum data that we are looking for. And the other source that we look for is the burials. Burials, because most of the data is buried long back, and that data has remained intact, and all of us dig out that particular data and use for the reconstruction purpose. It is not only that we get only in the ancient human burials we get, of course, skeletal remains, but at the same time we also get a lot of other material, because from the beginning people believed in second life or life after death, and they have buried along with the dead bodies a lot of goods, which include maybe a lot of pots which may have contained food and water for the dead person, probably maybe their clothes also. We also get the evidence of jewelry, we also get the evidence of their weapons, etc. So these are the there is a lot of material along with the dead bodies found. So here we use the two terms. One is that the artifacts, anything that is made by man and used, that is found, but that's called artifact, that is found in fact in the burials. And the other category we get is the ecofact, the organic remains, that includes the human bones and also maybe the other organic matter buried along with that. So both these artifacts and ecofacts are very, very important, and they provide us a lot of information about ancient cultures and ancient people. Now, as far as the burial custom is concerned, in fact, it began long back, probably from the Stone Age itself, but we do not have much evidence. In fact, in Europe, they have found some burials of the Neanderthal man in Germany, in Spain, and other places, even in France. And so that means, and the Neanderthal lived, in fact, on the earth from 4 lakhs to 40,000 years. So that was his, the time bracket. And then, of course, then, is evolved the Upper Paleolithic. And from the Upper Paleolithic onward, we are getting proper evidence of the human burials. These are the ceremonial burials which were practiced by the mankind. So again, in fact, the data from the Mesolithic or the Upper Paleolithic period is very small. But then, when we enter into the Mesolithic phase, there we get a lot of data because Mesolithic is the stage between hunting, gathering, and settled way of life or the agriculture. And people began to spend some time at least, at one place. And then, of course, they used to move to the other place. So from Neolithic onward, we start getting a lot of evidence about the human burials. In fact, the Mesolithic burials have been reported from almost from Europe, from West Asia, and also from the Indian subcontinent. So we get really lot of data, in fact, in this respect. Then this particular custom was followed by the Neolithic farmers. The date of the Neolithic, of course, varies from region to region. In India, of course, the earliest date is around 7000 BC in the northwest part of the subcontinent. And then, of course, it continues into the Chalcolithic phase also. And the Harappans followed this particular custom. Then the early Iron Age people, what we call as the megalithic people, they also followed the burial custom. And it continues, up to the 2nd century BC. And interestingly, there are some regions, in fact, in Indian subcontinent, particularly the northeast part of the Indian subcontinent. Now, there we can see the continuity of the megalithic tradition even today. In fact, we say that the living megalithism is found in fact, in the northeast part of the Indian subcontinent. Now, the preservation of the burials depends upon two factors. One is the climatic condition, and the other one is the condition of the soil. In European condition, of course, the conditions in Europe are very ideal for the preservation of the organic matter, including the human dead bodies. Whereas in West Asia and in Indian subcontinent, the condition is really not good for the preservation. In Europe, of course, the climate is very cold, which helps, in fact, in the preservation. And also the soil is more acidic, more alkaline. And alkaline soil is good, in fact, for the preservation of the dead bodies. Whereas the soil, in fact, in West Asia, in Indian subcontinent, is more acidic. And this acidic soil is not really good for the preservation of the dead bodies or the organic matter. Now here on this particular screen, you are seeing 3 different pictures. Now first, this particular picture, first, the maybe the head portion with the cap. Now this is the picture of what is known as the Tolun mine. Now this Tolun mine was found. First, this particular picture. First, the maybe the head portion with the cap. Now this is the picture of the Tolun mine was found, in fact, in the main area of Denmark, the Jutland area. Then the other picture on the left hand side is the picture of what was known when it was discovered as the Ice Age man, and later, of course, it is renamed as the Ōdzi man, which was found on the border of Italy and Austria. And this particular dead body, has attracted a lot of controversies between different countries, about which I will speak. And the third picture is the picture of a child mummy, which is found in Peru. It is very late, of course, around 1400 AD. But Egypt, in Egypt, of course, they have practiced the mummification long back, maybe 5,000 years ago. So some maybe artificial attempts were made, in fact, in the preservation of the dead bodies in the form of the mummification. But here, let me tell you again this story. This the Tolun man. Now, what happened? There's a very interesting story behind this. In this particular dead body was discovered by one of the farmers in Denmark. What happened? In fact, in that area, one woman was killed by her husband. She was strangulated, and when this particular dead body was found, police thought that perhaps this is the dead body of a woman they are looking for. And then, of course, they thought that perhaps they have solved the mystery of this, maybe of the murder. But later, somebody suspected the age of this person, because on the basis of the, maybe the clothes found on the dead body, somebody suspected that this could be ancient dead body. And then, the tests were carried out, various, dates were obtained from this dead body, and it turned out to be 3,000 years old. So from the look, it looks very fresh, but because of the condition there, because of the soil condition and the climatic condition, the dead body has really preserved very well, and therefore it was mistaken as the modern dead body. We don't get this type of preservation in West Asia or in Indian subcontinent. Then the other body, on the right hand side, complete body, is the Ice Man, which was discovered maybe some 12 or 13 years ago. When it was discovered, it was termed as the Ice Man. And as I said that this particular dead body was discovered on the border between Austria and Italy. And initially, the Italians the Australians thought that this is on their side. So this was taken to Austria, and there, they carried out, all sorts of scientific studies on them, on this particular dead body. And they have done the complete reconstruction of this particular person, about which I will also speak. So the condition, and the date of this particular person is 5,500 years old. So see the condition of this particular dead body, which is found, long back uh, in the, in the deposit of ice. Now, on this picture, I will tell you the story. In fact, how you can see in this picture two trekkers sitting here. Now, these two German trekkers, they had taken some route which was unusual route, not the one which was followed by most of the trekkers. And they were sitting at one place, and there they noticed this dead body, and they thought that this particular dead body, because it looks so fresh, they thought that this is the dead body of one of the trekkers who may have died recently. But again, on the basis of maybe the material which was found around the dead body, they suspected that this could be quite old. And then in the right hand side picture, you can see that they have carried out full investigation, sort of rescue excavation around the dead body. And there they found really large amount of data which could be used for the reconstruction purpose properly. Now in this particular picture, you can see the condition of the dead body, how well preserved it is. The skin is intact, and even you can see the tattoo marks on the dead body. And this is considered to be the earliest evidence of tattoo mark anywhere, in fact, in the world. So on the leg, on the shoulder, you can see these tattoo marks. And in this X-ray picture, you can see that that in the shoulder bone, there is a arrowhead embedded, which means that this particular person was shot, from behind, and probably scientists have established that this particular person died because of excessive maybe bleeding, which happened because of the this particular injury. So they found really very good evidence about the person, and that they could find mainly because the condition of the dead body was so good, and they can see all the various features intact. Now, this is the in this picture you can see what is the kind of material that was found around the dead body. They carried out systematic uh, investigation around the dead body, and you can see they have found even uh, the shoes made of hay. You can also see the coat which is made of hay, the stockings made of maybe goat skin, his fur cap, then maybe his other tools, etc. But you can see here there is a small ball here. Now this small ball is the earliest evidence of gum found anywhere in the world, because this was found in his tooth. Two teeth were found, between the two teeth were found. So this is the kind of evidence that was found, and this particular evidence was thoroughly examined. They carried out all sorts of scientific studies. They established the age and the sex of the person, also on the basis of the tools found, basis of the material found around the dead body. They have established the status of the person, because this person was having one very special axe, which is holding in his hand. In the reconstruction portion you can see. So these type of axes were available only to the chief of the communities or the tribes. So archaeologists have finally arrived to the conclusion that perhaps this was this particular person was a head or the chief of some tribe, and he was killed certainly by the arrow, the remains of which were found in the dead body. So that type of evidence is found in fact in some parts of Europe, and there the conditions are so good. Let me also tell you that this before the Tolun man died, he had eaten 18 different kinds of seeds, and these 18 different kinds of seeds were well preserved in his stomach. And the archaeobotanists, they have reconstructed the various species that they have found. So that is also very very interesting evidence that was found along with the dead body. Then I draw your attention to this particular gentleman. Now his name is Howard Carter. All of you must have heard about him, because he is the one who discovered the famous tomb, the tomb of Tutankhamen in Egypt. And Tutankhamun's tomb is really, perhaps the richest tomb found anywhere in the world. The date of Tutankhamun is between 1345 to 1325 BCE. Now, this man was given the task of discovering the dead bodies or the royal tombs by one very wealthy person in Europe, and his name is Sir Corwan Orr. So Corwan Orr supported his expedition in Egypt. He did his expedition in fact in the Valley of Kings, and the Valley of Kings is known for the burials of the royal families and their noble families. So this man, stumbled upon perhaps the greatest tomb in the world, and this particular discovery was made on 25th October 1925. I will show the picture of the Valley of the Kings. In fact, in this Valley of Kings, uh, they have discovered nearly tombs of different royal families. And Tutankhamun's tomb also was found. You can see in this picture. Tutankhamun's tomb was also found. Perhaps this is the most prominent tomb here. That is the tomb of the Tutankhamun. And you can see here, there are number of chambers. The chambers contain the dead body of various maybe royal individuals or the families. Some of the tombs are very, very large. In particularly in case of Tutankhamun, they found the richest haul of wealth inside the burial. They found nearly 5,000 different objects, including his furniture, and along with him were also buried probably his servants also. So the remains of them also were found. And in the next picture, perhaps you can see the picture of the inside picture of the tomb, Tutankhamun's tomb. This is the painting which you can see on the wall. And in this, on the right hand side picture, you can see that mummification is happening. People are, mummifying the dead body. And on the left hand side wall, one can see various mythological scenes. So this is the kind of evidence, which was found inside the, this tomb, perhaps the richest tomb in the world. And they found large amount of gold artifacts inside the tomb. And one of the prize artifacts was his the mask. Now we can see in this picture, you can see the complete uh, in situ and the intact picture of the mask which was discovered inside the tomb. Now I will come to the Indian subcontinent. Now, as I mentioned that in Indian subcontinent, the burial custom also starts from the Mesolithic period onward. In fact, the University of Allahabad has discovered number of Mesolithic burials in the Vindhyan region. Sites like Sarai Nahar, Mahada, etc. Now these are the sites which have produced evidence about the Mesolithic period, which are dated to maybe 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 BCE. And then of course the earliest evidence of the maybe systematic or the ceremonial burial comes from the site of Mehergarh. Now, Mehergarh has the Neolithic and the Chalcolithic phases. In both the phases, of course, they find the evidence of the human burials. Now, interestingly, we do find the human burials in the in the Neolithic phase, and also in the Chalcolithic phase, in other parts of the Indian subcontinent, particularly in the Deccan region and also in South India. But it was not common practice, in fact, in North India, particularly in the Ganga basin, also in central India, in Madhya Pradesh, and in the eastern part also, we have so far not really found the evidence of the ceremonial burials of the human dead bodies. But this particular evidence comes from the site of Mehergarh, the picture that you see here. What these people did, in fact, the Neolithic and the Chalcolithic people, they buried the dead bodies within the habitation, either below the door or maybe in the courtyard. And along with the dead bodies, here, in fact, in this case, you can see number of artifacts connected with his jewelry, number of beads of different sizes and shapes are found along with the dead body. So that means that right from the beginning in the Indian subcontinent, people believed in life after death. Maybe they believed in second life, and perhaps they thought that they need all this, maybe which he used when he was alive. He needs all this in second life also. You can also see a basket, in fact, the remains of basket which may have contained some food inside the burial. So this is the kind of burials we find in maybe in the northwestern part of the Indian subcontinent. And then I come to the Deccan region. These are some of the old pictures of the uh, remains from the site of Inamgaon. Inamgaon in the entire Deccan region and also the South India, where the South Indian Neolithic people flourished. Now both these people followed the systematic or the ceremonial burial customs. Now here you can see. First, I would like to tell you that that the best excavator of the burial was Dr. J.D. Ansari. You can see three persons sitting in this particular picture. In the right hand side lower picture, and in the middle person, of course, is Dr. J.D. Ansari. On his uh, on his left is one of the draftsmen, Raser, and on his right is myself. In fact, I was a student that time, and I was trained by Dr. J.D. Ansari in the excavations of burials, because you need special skill for the excavation of burials, and this particular skill was passed on to me by Dr. J.D. Ansari. Now you can see in fact in the upper part there are two pots here. So usually in the Chalcolithic Deccan region and also in South India and Neolithic region, the children were buried in pots. Usually they used to use two pots like this. We call this as a twin urn burial. And along then outside the pot also you can see some pots which are the burial goods. So this was the custom for the children in the initial stage, and this continues throughout the Chalcolithic phase in parts of Deccan and also South India. And then, of course, the adults were buried, of course, in a sleeping position. All again, the child burials and the adult burials are found within the habitation, either below the living floor or in the courtyard. And what is interesting, you can in this picture you can see the burial of an adult. These are, of course, this is a unique burial because there are two adults buried. This was the only burial found at the site of 𝐼𝐻𝐽. And 𝐼𝐻𝐽 was excavated in between 1965, 66 to 1982, and a major portion of my training was done in fact at the site of 𝐼𝐻𝐽. Now, in case of the adults, they used to chop off the feet of the person before the burial. Now we do not know why they were doing that. Our guess is that perhaps maybe we can have maybe two or three cases. Perhaps the person should not run away and turn into ghost, or people believed or loved person so much that they did not want the person to go away. So these are some of the possibilities. But there is an ethnographic parallel to this also. In parts of Goa, the pregnant women usually they are in case of pregnant women, the feet of the dead bodies are cut off, and the general belief behind that the women should not turn into ghost and should not come back. That is the belief, in fact, that was existing. And this particular belief, in fact, has existed in some parts of the Indian subcontinent for almost 4,000 to 4,000 to 4,500 years in the Indian subcontinent. Uh, the Harappans and the Megalithic people, these are the two, people of the two cultures which establish a separate cemetery for the burial purpose. And here, in fact, in this particular picture, you can see the cemetery at the site of Farmana, perhaps one of the largest cemeteries, Harappan cemeteries, that we discovered in the Indian subcontinent. Now here the cemetery was spread over an area of almost 3.5 hectare, quite extensive. And as I mentioned, in fact, in some of my earlier lectures, we want to excavate large number of burials here. And one of our aims was to extract the DNA from the skeletal remains, so that we can talk about the ancestry of the people. We can discuss about the relation between the Harappans and the contemporary population, and also the relation between the Harappans and the modern population. But I'll just show you the kind of evidence that we excavated at the site of Farmana. Now in this picture you can see maybe what we did. In fact, we used to level the area, and after leveling the area, the burial pits used to be quite visible. So in this picture the burial pits are very useful. They are quite visible in this particular picture. And then, as I say that we excavated nearly 70 burials at the site of Farmana. And these burials, you can see here, in fact, the large cemetery that was excavated here, and the number of burials that we could excavate. The burials are found, the depth of the burial is, it varies in fact from burial to burial. Some burials are at a depth of 1 meter, you can see here, in fact, in this picture. In this picture, you can see that some burials are at a depth of maybe 1 meter, some burials are at the depth of half a meter, and some burials are very close to the surface. So there are different levels, but they do not indicate different chronological phases. In fact, all these three burials which I am showing here, they belong to one and the same phase. Now the Harappans, in fact, particularly in the Saraswati basin, and in other parts also, now we are coming across the same evidence. You find three different kinds of burials. One is what we call as the primary burial. Now in this picture you can see the complete skeletal remains. So in this particular picture, probably the person was buried immediately after the death, and also you can see number of pots and burial goods along with this. So the Harappans also continued the same tradition as was existing, in fact, from the early stage of the settled life in this part. So that was the part of the primary burial. Then the second category is called secondary burial. In this picture again you can see that there are number of pots in a pit, but there is no complete skeletal remain here. We find few bones along with the burial goods. What must have happened, in fact, they must have kept the dead bodies open for some time, and later the bones were collected and they were ceremoniously buried, like today, in fact, the Parsis do. So maybe that type of traditions must have existed, and that particular tradition must have continued from the Harappans till the present time. So this is the second kind of burial, what we call as the secondary burial. And the third variety is called symbolic burial. Now we find only the burial pits and the pots or the burial goods in the pit, but there is not a single sherd of human human bone at all. So it appears that that perhaps the person died somewhere, his body could not be retrieved, but they thought of giving him ceremonious burial, and therefore this type of burials also existed in the Harappan period. So these are the three kinds of burials that we find in the Harappan levels. I am showing you the picture of a famous burial that we excavated at the site of Rakhigadi. Now this is the double burial of a man and a female, and we have published a paper on this, and we say that these two, they have some relation which was accepted to the society. Probably we thought that they are husband and wife, because the relationship these people had, both of them had, was acceptable to the society, and therefore we find that they were buried within the common cemetery, and they were given the same treatment as they had given to the other individuals. Had they had some kind of illicit relationship which was not acceptable to the society, perhaps they would not have given this type of ceremonial burial. Perhaps they must have thrown somewhere in other part of the cemetery, but not this type of systematic burial. So this is the kind of evidence also we get in the Harappan levels, and we have already published on this. So you can see here, in fact, the details of that. In fact, I can tell you one very interesting anecdote. When we started the excavation of the burials at Farmana burials was accidentally discovered. In fact, when we were excavating at at the habitation site, the farmer came one day and he was sitting with us and he said that no, he's in his field, same kind of potshells are found, and he said that why don't you go and investigate that? So we went there, and there were some cut sections in which we could see some complete pots, and we immediately realized that this is the Harappan cemetery. So we requested him to allow us to excavate. So when we started the work, in fact, no worker was ready to come and work in the cemetery because they thought they will be maybe cursed, and they said that no, we will not work. But then we ourselves started working there, and we started keeping the dead bodies, or we used to take the skeletal remains sometimes, remove the skeletal remains, and we used to take them and keep in our tents, and we used to sleep in the tent. So then they realized that perhaps that perhaps this curse and all this is not really true. Perhaps this is more like a maybe blind belief. And then they started coming and started helping us. There are some multiple burials. See, from the burials also we can find out the position of the person, his social position in the society, and his social status in fact in the society. There are some burials which have got maybe one or two pots, whereas in this case you can see there are nearly 40 pots. So the number of the pots, the quality of the pots, differ from burial to burial, and it depends more on the status of the person, economic status of the person, and also the uh, social status of the person. So we can make a lot of inference about the social status and social hierarchy on the basis of the data from the burials. So this is the kind of data that we get in the Harappan levels. The same tradition continues in the late Harappan phase also. This is the remains from the site of Sanauli, which is a late Harappan burial ground, and there also we have got very good evidence about the burial system. You can see here the burials are so rich. You can see number of pots. As I mentioned also that sometimes they buried along with the dead bodies the jewelry and their tools also. So in this case we can see some of the copper tools or the bronze tools buried along with the dead bodies. And also we find sometimes terracotta figurines buried along with the dead bodies. So this is the evidence which we find in fact in some of the cemeteries, later of the cemeteries. You can see the close-up of uh, the bull figurines, terracotta bull figurines found in the burials. And also we find a lot of evidence of the jewelry also, particularly copper ornaments, sometimes shell ornaments, shell bangles, and a lot of beads, stone beads made of semi-precious stone. So that type of evidence is also found in fact in the burials. And then of course I move on to the early Iron Age period. In India we have Iron Age, it begins around maybe 12 to 1300 BCE, and we have two distinct cultures in fact. In North India, the early Iron Age culture is called the painted graver culture, in which we do not find the evidence of the burials. Whereas in South India, from the Vidarbha down south, we get the evidence of the very elaborate burials. So this particular culture is called the megalithic culture, and I will show you some of the evidence from the megalithic levels. Like Harappans, the megalithic people also buried the dead bodies in separate cemeteries, and we have excavated number of these cemeteries in different parts of South India and the Vidarbha region. So you can see some of the burials are like this, very elaborate. They use a lot of stone, of course. They have made these stone chambers, sometimes single chamber, sometimes double chamber, sometimes multiple chamber. So this type of evidence is found. And inside them, of course, we find the evidence of the dead bodies. These are some of the different kinds of the cyst burials found excavated in different parts. So very elaborate evidence. In fact, we are getting in the megalithic phase. You can see here, in fact, this chamber has opening, in fact, through which perhaps they were giving the offerings, from time to time. And this is one burial of a multi-chamber variety found in some of the cemeteries of the megalithic people. So I'm just showing you some of the different kinds of burials that we find in the megalithic period. So very different, but very elaborate burials we find. Even though the culture was not that rich as maybe in case of Harappans, the Harappans were very rich, of course, but we do not find such elaborate burials in the Harappan period. But they are found, of course, in the megalithic period. So they attach a lot of importance. In fact, they gave a lot of ceremonial importance to the burials, and they have done very careful burial of the human bodies there. In fact, so this is the third variety, another variety. This is the sarcophagus, legged terracotta sarcophagus, in which inside the this is found the remains of the dead body, along with sometimes the burial goods. Then in Kerala, of course, there are some different varieties. So this is called the variety called topical. It has a cap, and you can see the chamber below that, and inside the chamber we find the dead bodies. So these are the different varieties. We have given different terms, like dolmenite cyst, or topical, or the cairns, etc. So these are the different kinds of burials that we find. This is a different kind of topical, again from the from the Kerala region. This is the evidence. We also find a lot of this cyst burials, dolmen burials. These are the different terms that we have introduced, of course, to explain the nature of the burial pit or the burial chamber. So this type of evidence is found, in fact, in different parts of South India. We don't find this kind of evidence in North India particularly, but we have maybe some kind of menhir burials in Kashmir. And in the next picture, you can see some of the menhir burials. These are some of the menhir burials found in South India, and these type of menhirs also found in Kashmir. But otherwise, in the Ganga plain and other parts of North India, we do not find these type of burials. So a lot of stone is used here for creating some kind of a shrine, in fact, around the dead body. So this is another kind. It is called the hooded stone burial. The stones are placed in like a hood here, and inside, in fact, in the middle, you see the remains of the dead body, or the mortuary remains in the middle part. A lot of burial goods are found along with the dead bodies. The dead bodies are badly crushed, because they used to put a lot of stone, a lot of heavy stone on the top of the burial, and because of that, probably the burial used to get the dead body used to get crushed. So we get in fragments mostly, but some of the burial goods are quite intact. So these are the circles. In the next picture, you can see these type of circles are found in the Vidarbha region, and Deccan College particularly has excavated large number of these circles. They are small circles, they are big circles. Again, they are denoting the status of the family, maybe the social status and economic status. So we have excavated some of the burials in the Vidarbha region. And then, of course, I will show you some of the burial goods found in the cemetery. We find large number of pots. Probably these pots contain food and water. And we have established that also scientifically. In fact, at the site of Farmana, we have done these two, kind of scientific analysis. One is called the starch grain analysis. We know from the surface of the pottery, sometimes we could get that evidence about the remains of the food, and also we used to scrape the inner portion of the pottery, and we used to analyze that. That is called the residue analysis. So from the residue analysis and also from the starch grain analysis, we have been able to reconstruct what these pots contain. And interestingly, you'll find that now we have established the earliest antiquity of the Indian curry in the Harappan levels at the site of Farmana. In fact, we have done this type of scientific studies, and we could in the starch grain analysis and also in the residue analysis, we found the remains of ginger, then maybe brinjal, turmeric, all these. This is the ingredient which is used for the curry purpose. So we thought that the Harappans developed this particular tradition, this particular food habit, and this particular food habit continues from the Harappans to the modern times. This picture will show you the type of weapons or the arms that we find in the megalithic burials. These are all the iron implements. Some of them are agriculture implements, some of them are offensive, some of them are defensive implements, and some of them are carpentry implements. So a large number of these tools are found buried along with the dead bodies. And what also we have noticed, in fact, in the Vidarbha region, that they used to bury the horse along with the dead bodies. Suppose a person owned a horse, after his death, maybe the horse was killed, and the horse was maybe decorated there, and then the decorated horse was buried along with the dead bodies. So in this picture, we see a lot of this, the ornaments which are made for decorating the horse. So this is the kind of evidence that we find in the megalithic burials. The megalithic people were very good, in fact, in metal technology. They had developed the bronze technology, rather they carried forward from the Harappans, and they developed the very advanced iron and steel technology, in fact, in this part. In fact, we have done some scientific studies on the metallurgy of the megalithic people, and what we noticed that the same kind of technology was imported in Korea, and Koreans were thinking that this particular methodology has come from the mainland China, but now they have realized that most of the technologies, iron technologies and the steel technologies, have come from the Indian subcontinent. So we have that particular evidence. And then, lastly, I will show you, how the burials should be excavated. We should take really proper precaution before the dead bodies are excavated, so that we can, if you excavate the remains without any contamination, that data is really very useful, and you can carry out, various n number of various scientific maybe analysis on them, and you can extract a lot of information from that. Now here, you are seeing the drone picture of the cemetery at Rakhigarhi, and what you are seeing, I don't know whether it is clear, but now you can see, in fact, from the picture itself, some of the maybe the burial pits are even visible. In fact, even though they are under the standing crop, from the picture, we can make out the burial pits, and it becomes really very easy to find out the burials, and when we want to excavate them, it becomes really very easy. So this is the technique that we use, in fact, at the site of Rakhigarhi. We use drone photography not only for documenting or recording them carefully, but also for detecting the burial pits and the burial lines, which are not visible otherwise by naked eyes from the ground. So we have used this technique very, very extensively at the site of Rakhigarhi, and we have succeeded in locating a couple of burial grounds of the Harappans in the site of Rakhigarhi. And then the other thing, other precaution that I would suggest is that before excavating any burial, we should take proper precaution, because this is again why we are doing this particular precaution. We did not use this type of precaution at the site of Farmana, and one of our aims at Farmana was to extract DNA from the Harappan skeletal remains. But ultimately, we miserably failed at the site of Farmana because of maybe wrong approach we adopted. We did not use this type of precaution, and we we excavated the burials, kept them open for very long, and by that time, perhaps because of the rain and sunshine, the maybe the whatever DNA was there that escaped from the bones, and ultimately we could not find. And then, of course, our Korean friends, Korean collaborators, they suggested that we should firstly use this type of precaution, use before the excavation, take proper precaution, one separate tool and brush for the separate burial. Then we should do very detailed sampling of the burials. And here in this picture, you can see now we have used these type of gowns, then hand gloves, the goggle, even the mask, and even the head cap. And you might recall, this, similar precaution has been taken nowadays, in fact, in the hospital because of the corona epidemic. And all our excavators, while excavating the burials, they have taken the same precaution. In this picture also, you can see all of us, the students and all of us who are excavating the burials. Now we have used the same precaution for the excavating the burials. And because of this precaution, finally, we could succeed in getting DNA. So this precaution was not, and of course, you can see here, we have done the extensive sampling uh, at the burials that we excavated. So in this picture, in the next picture also, you can see, how elaborate sampling was done at every burial. So, what we also did, what one of our aims was to locate the parasite eggs from the ancient burials also, parasite eggs of the person, because the Koreans, they have developed the technique. They can, extract the parasite eggs from the ancient, maybe burial pits, and they can even get DNA of that particular person from the parasite egg. And we also were looking in fact for the same evidence at the site of Rakhigarhi. We of course we did not succeed because perhaps the parasite eggs have not really survived at the site of Rakhigarhi. But we have not left any stone unturned, because we have made sure that that the sampling is very rigorous, and this is what we did in fact at the site. And then of course when the samples were transported to the laboratory in Deccan College, then we have also done careful. First, we did the careful packing at the site, and then after, they are brought to the laboratory, we have taken the same precaution for cleaning the samples, because before the samples are sent for the extraction of DNA, they need to be cleaned properly, and this is what we did in fact, in the laboratory also. And we really succeeded in getting DNA because of this particular precaution that we did. The other thing that the Koreans suggested to us, that the mistake that we did at the site of Farmana, which we could avoid in fact at the site of Rakhigarhi, because of the suggestion from the Korean scientists. They say that excavate one burial at a time, immediately document it, and send the samples to the laboratory for further analysis. So this is how we followed in fact. These are the various scientific aids that we took, and the various scientific analysis was done on the samples. So in our laboratory, we did the anthropological examination. We have the physical anthropology lab in the Department of Archaeology of Deccan College, where this examination was done. Then we also did the CT scanning of the complete skeletal remains, because this particular data is required for the reconstruction of the facial feature, what is called as the craniofacial reconstruction. Then of course we did the paleoparasitology. We did not get of course any remains in that. Then we did the sampling, one for the ancient DNA analysis, and the other sampling was for the stable isotope analysis. Stable isotope analysis, then the strontium analysis, trace element analysis. Now these analyses are very useful in understanding the food habit of the people, because we try to find out the percentage of various maybe ingredients, like what is the percentage of iron in the bones, what is the percentage of zinc, copper in the bones, magnesium, and from that we get the idea what type of food person was eating, what are the percentage of plant food and animal food he was eating. And we also have done the DNA analysis, and I have spoken about that of course in great detail many times. And this DNA of course even though it is a small sample, we have been able to get complete the ancestry of the South Asian people. That is very important. At this stage of course we are not speaking about the composition of the Harappan population, but certainly now we are in a position to talk about the ancestry of the people from the small sample that we have collected. The other scientific studies we did was the facial reconstruction. And for the facial reconstruction, of course, one needs to have a complete skeletal remains and well-preserved skeletal remains. Now here you can see a skeletal remain of a boy. He's an 18-year boy, and we have done the complete reconstruction of this boy. And also we have the in the next picture you can see the skeletal remains of a 45-year-old woman at the site of Rakigiri. On the left hand side, of course, is the picture of the actual evidence that we excavated, and on the right hand side, the close up of the facial features of the person. So in this picture, this is a picture of a woman which was 45 years old, and we have done the reconstruction of the boy and this particular woman, and that facial reconstruction for the first time. We are going to show how the Harappan people look like. So this is again for the first time this type of research was initiated in the Indian subcontinent, and I think these are some of the methodologies that we have learned and employed at the site of Rakigiri. Now these type of methodologies needs to be applied at every burial excavation in the country. Even though even if your aim is not to get maybe that particular kind of evidence, maybe later somebody would like to maybe work on that, and maybe he would like to do some scientific studies later. So therefore we need to take really proper precaution. And in this picture also you can see that we have done the MRI scan. Now for the facial reconstruction, we need the full details, inner details of the human dead body or the human skeletal remains, even inner anatomy, and also the measurements of each and every bone. So we did that, and then of course step by step, of course, this was done. The reconstruction was done, and this is perhaps the most scientific way we have done the reconstruction of the 3D reconstruction of the human dead bodies or human or the people of the Harappans. So in the first stage, of course, we did reconstruction of the skull portion, and then of course slowly we started putting maybe muscles and maybe skin at the end, and this is how the facial reconstruction was done. And you'll be happy to know that the Harappans and the modern Haryana people, they exactly look the same. In the next picture, you will see the front view of the boy, 18-year boy, and the front view of the 45-year-old Harappan woman, and you can see their modern counterparts, and they exactly look like the Harappan people. So we have already, on the basis of the archaeological data, we have already you know indicated that there is a continuity from the beginning of the settled life till the till the present. That is very much visible in the cultural material. Then in the DNA studies also, we could see the continuity of the ancestry for last 13,000 years till the modern time. And also the people, the appearance of the people also was exactly same. So this is the kind of research that no one needs to do. This is the kind of nature of the data that we find at the some of the ancient sites, and this data is very important, very rich for us to understand maybe about the ancestry, about the composition of the human population, about the maybe the various diseases people were suffering from. In fact, the Harappans, we the some of the Koreans were working on the uh, paleopathology of the Harappans, and at the end of the study, they were very disappointed because they said that they were not really suffering from major diseases; they had some minor diseases. So they said that the Harappan people were so healthy, and the disease can be pathologies can be identified on the basis of the lesions now or the lines that we find on the bones, and these lesions differ from disease to disease, and also on some of on the basis of the skull portion. In fact, some portion of this skull one can make out maybe thickening of the skull. That is also indication of some kind of disease. So this can be done. Even we can also do the reconstruction of the maybe the dental health of the people. So all this, everything is possible if the data is collected systematically and scientifically without any contamination. So it is possible to really talk about the people, talk about the culture, and we can do reconstruction on the basis of this type of data. And this is how the reconstruction is done. So I just wanted to give you this, a brief idea about the nature of the data and how the data is used for the reconstruction of the ancient history and ancient people. Thank you very much.